Buongiorno. Mark my words, Mel. Early by Christmas.
Even now, less than a score of years after the World War,
hostilities exist. There is no blinking at the fact.
we shall never surrender!
This is the Militaria podcast, brought to you by your friends at Queen City Militaria, Wehrmacht Militaria, and SMG War Relics.
You have to be an athlete to do paintball, you think?
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. If you want to be good, fuck yeah, dude. Totally.
Wow.
I've only thrown up playing paintball, never playing lacrosse or any other sport.
Oh shit.
Oh yeah.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Dante Gambino only threw up playing paintball, no other sports. And that's the beginning of the Militaria podcast. My name is Joshua Doda. I run Queen City Militaria, and I'm joined today by my friends Dante Gambino of SMG War Relics.
That's me. How are you guys?
And Billy Kramer, William Kramer of WehrmachtMilitaria.com.
Thank you, Josh. I so appreciate you paying attention to the way. You know, sometimes I'll say William and people are like, oh, hi, Wayne. And it's like, I didn't realize. Like,
Wayne?
Wayne?
What the fuck?
Wayne Kramer over here trying to hustle some WW2 stuff.
That's it. Everyone's going to start calling you Wayne.
Sounds like a weed
guys,
guy. That's a weed guy name.
Everyone watching the show, when you come up to Billy, just dress him as Wayne. It'll fuck everything up at the shows. It'll be great.
Yeah, old Wayne over here. Yeah.
Well, I've done you a disservice because for the entire show up to this point in time and in our personal relationships, you've been known as Billy, but that's not how you go in the business world. So this is Mr. William Kramer from Wehrmacht.
Yeah, I've always, as far as WW2 stuff goes, I've always been a William. But people always like, what do I call you? And it's like, I don't really care, you know? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you know, let's expand on that because there is like, if you have the luxury of having two names, you want to use the proper name in your business title. My father was that way. It was always Sterling M. Gambino, right? However,
instead of Chip, yeah,
his name was Chip. So it's like, what the fuck? But it just sounds better. It's more professional sounding, right? You don't want to buy a $30,000 dagger from a guy named Chip, right?
You're like, dude, you want to buy weed from a guy named Chip. We've been over this. It's a weed guy name. It's a weed guy name.
Very good. Very good.
So it's been a little bit. We've all had a busy month. We're catching up here. We got to do our monthly check-in. Dante, what's been up, dude? What have you been up to?
You know, we've been chatting about just the amount of stuff that's coming in and not the amount of stuff that's going out. So I think as a business, I think a lot of dealers can attest to this. I've spoken to this with a bunch of different guys, almost ad nauseum every summer, like complaining about how it's just not a lot of sales going on, right? It's not a lot of action.
People are at the beach.
Stuff's coming in the front door. It's not going out the back door. You know what I mean? So
you're constipated.
You could be. So I'm busy because of all the stuff coming in and piles of stuff, mind you. And we'll show you some of that later. But other than listing stuff and getting stuff in, it's been slow. So that's what I got to say.
Bill, how about you, man? You seeing the summer slump right now?
Yes and no. I mean, I thought so, and then sales pick back up. I mean, I don't know. It's got to. I mean, at the same time, I update every few days, so I mean, sales have been steady, and I'm staying afloat as far as that concerned. I mean, you know, I'm not. I've seen Dante pulling collections and stuff like that. I'm not buying like that right now. So I would say I'm buying as much as I'm selling, but doing okay, and you know, mainly just kind of worried about the new house and hopefully going for occupancy here next week and. Moving in, you know?
Yeah, man, it's gonna be awesome. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Actually, I hate to interrupt this. I have a breaking news podcast alert real quick. News update on the neon sign.
So yeah, fixed. The last episode I had broke 3 bulbs on this thing. And I finally got it up and mounted back on the wall without breaking it. And I picked up a 79 pace car that's been cut into like a fifth. It's like 20% of the car. And I'm going to put that up there and mount it, you know, about 4 feet up there, and it'll fit. Hopefully the roof will be underneath the east there, but it should look pretty good. So exciting. And I got the stoplight working, and I got other neons, and it's becoming a really cool and fun garage, you know?
Dude, I'm happy to hear it. It was a crisis when the snake tooth was all broken up.
Josh, what's going on in your neck of the woods, buddy?
What's going on with me, dude? You're asking what's going on with me?
I sure am, bro.
Man, so much has been going on. Oh, where do I even start? Tomorrow me and Carmen are gonna go see Ghost. I'm a big Ghost fan. I know it's a divisive band in the metal circle. So if you don't like Ghost and you're a enjoyer of the podcast, I hope you can stick around and that's not a deal breaker for you. But that's pretty exciting. And then next week we're gonna be going to Oregon for a week. We're gonna celebrate our anniversary and just tread some of the old paths out there, see some people that we haven't seen for a year. And today we went antiquing. She bought a cool hat from the 1920s. I bought some 2-inch pilot's wings. It was a good day.
Sounds fun. And a whole day of antiquing is always a good time.
Yeah, it's weird, dude, with antiquing, especially in Maine. Like on Route 1 in Maine, there's like an antique store every 25 feet. It's kind of what the tourist industry bases itself around. Like all the antique stores are everywhere you look. So we drove past probably like 15, 20 antique stores before we actually stopped. And at one point she looked at me and she said, what is today actually about? She's like, I keep pointing out antique stores. We can't go in there. And I'm like trying everything to come up with a reason that's not, I've been in there and they don't have Militaria.
Ah, yes.
But that's really what it is, right? Like you go back to the places where you know where you can find it. So we hit up a few. There's this place, I think it's called Gurley's Antiques in Scarborough, Maine. If you guys are in Maine or you're going to Maine, check it out. Right now, he's got a ton of swords in there right now. I was sitting there looking at swords. There's always like a kind of like a come to Jesus moment that you have to have when you're like, am I a sword guy? Do I want?
I think
swords?
we're a sword guy when we're like 10. And then we're like, nope, not 10 anymore. Don't want these
I got
swords.
3 or 4 in my collection, but I don't need more than that. Like they do something, but they are slow movers as far as buying them to sell. Yeah.
Yeah, there needs to be like something hot and awesome about the sword market to like get people into it because it's so stale, I feel like.
Yeah, but how satisfying is it to like just hold a sword? You know what I mean? Like
when you
wave it
find
around.
a nice samurai sword like a katana or something, I feel like that's like power, right? But just holding like an officer's German saber, it's like it's like a toothpick.
Well, you're
Some of
talking
them,
about
yeah.
combat versus dress too, so you are talking about like the power of the samurai sword and versus the dress sidearm that
yeah, they're kind of like
it's got a sex appeal behind it in a sense.
I'll put 2 of them together, cross swords, and hang over my mantle, but that's about it, man.
Mm-hmm.
See, but then you enter into the territory of being a sword guy because people come over and they're like, "Oh, this guy's the type of guy that hangs swords on the wall."
Yeah, that is kind of a weird stigma, sword guys. You're immediately classified right next to Star Trek guys, I think.
Hey, man, you know what? There's a pretty serious overlap in the hobby, I think, of the Star Trek guys who might also be into swords.
Yeah, it might be.
Today's episode is probably something that we should have done earlier. Today, we're going to be talking about how Militaria collecting, like all hobbies, with a built-in community at least, all hobbies with a built-in community, has its own language. And this language comes with hyper-specific terms, which literally, like, they don't apply outside of the community. It's almost like watching A Clockwork Orange. It's almost like being in a cult. So when you're following our advice and you're joining forums and you see people saying that their new dagger was out of the woodwork or that a uniform is salty, you may think, man, I think I understand, but I'd really like to hear a detailed breakdown of this terminology from 3 random guys on the internet.
We're the guys.
That's where we come in. Yeah, exactly. We're the guys. So this episode is inspired by the warrelics.com collector glossary page, which I highly suggest you guys take a look at. We are going to talk about some, but not all of the things that Dante has on that page. And just to mix it up, I've added a couple terms of my own, not too many. We're going to cover 7 major terms in the hobby today. And if you guys like it, then we can do it again in the future because there's more language than,
there's a lot to talk about.
You can't swing a dead cat without hitting a weird thing around here. You know what I'm saying? So our first term is cross grain, which is defined by SMG War Relics as a specific grain pattern found on many daggers caused by the final fine grit sanding wheel. Highly polished and plated blades will not have this, often used as a way to grade the condition of the blade. And I have 2 examples here. I know, dude, I'm excited too. I have 2 examples here, one from Dante and one from Billy, and we'll show those now. So this here... this is our SMG. Yeah. So Dante, I'm hoping you can say a few words about this dagger here, but I think it's a pretty good example of cross grain.
Yeah. So it's easy to see the cross grain on this. This is a transitional acorn. And it's going in this picture, it's going horizontally across the screen. And they used to, when they finish, you could kind of crack open some reference books and see these big wheels they had, big finishing wheels that the guys would have the blades on. And this kind of grain pattern is a result of that kind of final wheel that they would hit the blades on before they would go out for etching. So that's pretty much it. Now, the interesting thing about cross graining is it's kind of a term that was just like coined by like the Militaria community. I don't know if it was Whitman who coined it or Johnson or something, but it just kind of like came up as a thing, right? So now, as a collector community, we kind of judge the quality of the blade based on the amount of cross graining that's remaining, right? So if it was supposed to have cross graining on there and it has been polished off because it's been polished over the years with, rubbing compound or whatever kind of metal polish, and it's gone, the blade is technically less desirable. So you'll often see dealers say, oh, this has 90% cross grain or just 50% cross grain remaining. So it's just an indicator of the quality of the blade, like what's left in terms of the condition of it from the original look when it left the factory. So it's kind of an interesting term. It's kind of ours. I don't know if any other communities use the word cross graining for anything specific like this. And I don't know if cross graining, the terminology carries over to other blade hobbies, like modern, like weaponry collectors and stuff, and pocket knife
Ball
collectors.
ninjas.
Yeah, like exactly. Guys with samurai swords that were made yesterday. Like, I don't know. But yeah, it's kind of a cool thing. And does it really mean anything? I don't know. We kind of made it mean something, right? At the end of the day, if you like the way the dagger looks with cross grain, without cross grain, then I guess it's, whatever. But to kind of jump into this and kind of finish it off, the remark about plated blades not having cross grain. Well, yeah, because they're plated. So there's a layer of nickel over the cross grain, which would cover them completely. And then they're sent out from there to get acid etched. So you won't see cross graining on a nickel blade. And then there are other blades that are just a regular blade that's just factory polished. And they look really good. So it's not like a home job on a fucking polishing wheel in your basement, looks all like blotchy and everything with rounded edges. So yeah, cross graining, man. Important term.
Dude, Professor Dante, thank you for this overview on cross grain. Billy, I have a wonderful example of cross graining from your collection. I'm hoping you could speak on it as well.
This is the Lundgren dagger. This came from my good friend Kirk Ross. He was to the hilt Militaria, and this is a prize piece that I promised I would never sell. This is a Claus Kissing Crane logo. Got the vet actually made the box for the dagger specifically to go home and be sent back from Germany. You can see the Lundgren is his last name there. I believe it came out of Minnesota. If you go forward there, you can actually see the cross grain and the Kissing Cranes logo. And it's like Dante said, it goes horizontal, left to right there. And honestly, Josh, I can't take you seriously without a mint green polo like Dante and I were. So it's hard to talk to you right now.
I was wondering when you were going to mention that. So yeah,
I didn't realize there was a uniform requirement for the day.
It was not spoken. We just were on the same page.
I also want you to maybe right here over here put a recross grain dagger, because we should show because they do recross grain them post-war to try to fake the original, and it's just
never looked right. Yeah, they never. Yeah,
so maybe
right.
you could splice that in real quick and show what a fake one. Well,
yeah.
That would be a good thing to show.
We'll find one to show everybody.
Magician. Yeah, I mean, maybe get a magician to put a green polo on for this episode, so we're all magic. I don't know.
Fuck, dude. If only once again, the weak spot that the podcast has as a production, no staff magician.
It is interesting to talk about how no one's really been able to recreate the 1930s and 40s cross grain. I'm not sure what kind of wheels they used. If it was how a lot of finishing steps are just like leather, like a abrasive leather. I don't know if that was used or just a really fine grit sandpaper or whatever was used. I would assume just a super fine grit sandpaper. But the interesting thing is almost all the Soligan makers had the same finishing wheel because they look the same. And now we're talking about the blade makers, right? As opposed to the assemblers who have their name on the dagger. The guys who were making the blades, whatever foundries those were, they were all in cahoots because they had the same exact finishing wheel or grit or whatever. And it's interesting.
Dude, that's what I've always heard is living in Nazi Germany was a great time to be the guy that makes the tools that polish the blades.
He was the guy.
He was in control of the whole fucking market. Like you know what? You're living high on the hog.
He must have been. I swear to God, there must have been like just one manufacturer of these giant wheels with the finishing compound or finishing whatever thing on it. So interesting stuff. Yeah, you could spot a redone one kind of a mile away. It just has a different look to it. Doesn't look right. If you pull just like a modern dagger that's been, repo and just kind of look at it, you can get an idea. It's very different looking.
Well, our second topic of the day, our second term is actually 2 terms. I'm sorry to break the rules so fast, but we're going to talk about the terms repro and the terms fantasy. The term fantasy. It's not multiple terms. That was just me slipping up. So repro and fantasy. Repro, obviously short for reproduction, and it's one of the most common terms that you'll see in community discussions, which really says something about how many reproductions are in circulation. Like if you go on the Militaria collecting subreddit, you'll see reproductions every fucking day. And you'll also see people post real stuff and you'll see other people claim, hey, that's a reproduction. I think it's a reasonable thing, right? Everybody's concerned that they could be getting scammed, more or less. So as a general rule, you should assume that everything has been or is being reproduced currently. And a few examples that I have to show to you, we'll bring them up here.
Real quick, you know what I dislike is that people say repo instead of repro.
Oh, it drives me crazy. I was going to say something.
Stand it, dude.
I was going to say something if you didn't say something. Anyone that says like repo, I'm like, you're getting your dagger repossessed? What the hell's going on?
Repossessed. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
What are you
the
doing?
repo man's coming. Yeah. That's funny. Super funny.
Or repop. That's another one.
Yeah, repop. Oh, that's even
repop
worse.
is the thing I don't like to hear. I am not a fan.
I gotta say, if you say repop, I'm judging you, and we're not having beers. That's it. Bottom line.
So this is a pretty good example, I think, of something that's trying to be a dagger that did exist, right? It's not a fantasy item.
Pretty shitty. I mean, it's got a brown handle with the SS runes in it, but
it looks bad. But that's the nature of reproductions. Like I've never seen a reproduction and been like, "Ooh, spot."
That looks like it's made in India. That looks like
and also there is a difference. While we're on the subject of reproductions, there's reproductions that are made for like novelty purposes, which I would classify this, and then there's like good reproductions.
Yeah, meant to fool and deceive.
They're made to screw people, and someone was at the other end of a pile of cash. You know what I mean? So those are the ones.
Yeah, but if you have no formal training on this, not formal training, but if you have no experience with this sort of thing, no exposure, and you see something like this on eBay, you might be like, yeah, sure, I guess. Why would anyone be faking it, right?
You wouldn't know. Yeah.
I always see people spending stupid money on this shit. I mean, it's crazy. Obviously, there's more fake stuff than real stuff, but it's the lack of knowledge. I would kill to have some of the exposure that eBay gets and pull some of that traffic to actually sell these people real stuff. I mean, you get a lot more what you pay for if you buy real stuff. But
that's valid.
You know, there's a guy out there who probably says repop and buys this thinking it's real. And
the repop guy.
Yeah, the repop guy's probably gotten a lot of
extremely late war. That's all it is.
Gotten popped on a lot of these fakes.
It's extremely late 1997 war period.
It's Fourth Reich. All right, so next up we got this Luftwaffe badge. It's a very clear reproduction. It's I think where I found it, I can't remember exactly what the website was. I try to give credit where credit's due when we borrow images, but I want to say this was like 1995. So you're obviously not paying for a real thing. It's advertised as a reproduction, but at the same time, if you compare it to that dagger we just looked at, it looks a little bit nicer, right? Like you see this in an antique store, you have no prior understanding of what you're looking at. You might go, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's significantly better.
Can you zoom in on and show like any detail of the feathering? And we're going to kind of look at a real one here. I mean, they at least tried. I'll give them that. They tried.
Oh, absolutely.
And again, condition does not determine originality. So I'm going to show you a real one here in the next slide. And that's a real one.
Yeah.
And when you zoom in on that detail, obviously it's a little better, but to the untrained eye, somebody might think this is fake because it's it looks too new to be real. But again, so I mean, this is an egg wreath, so it's a little different than what we just showed you. But exactly like what Dante was saying. There are fakes that are meant to fool you, and then there's fakes previously that, for my eye, obviously this is kind of what I do for a living. You can instantly spot it, but to the untrained eye, if they're just looking at coloration, it's a fairly good match to what you're seeing here. You know?
Yeah, I think the other one we showed before was just like a decent reenactor copy. You know,
Yes.
something you could wear out on your uniform if you're reenacting
Halloween.
or something.
Yeah, out to
Whatever.
Chili's. You're going to Chili's.
Of
You want to
course.
dress up for the night, really impress your girlfriend. You throw the old Luftwaffe badge on. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
I get it.
Lord.
All right. So yeah, finally, just like stuff like this, you know, this is obviously, it purports to be a thing that did historically exist, but this is made specifically for reenactors, right? So it's still a reproduction of sorts. It's a modern reproduction. It has more of a utility to it, but we're still talking about like this is a reproduction. So you may run into this in an antique store or at a flea market, and somebody may not know it's a reproduction, thinking it's original, or maybe they're just trying to swindle you. But it's a good example of what I'm talking about when I say reproduction.
It's also going to be very interesting to see, you know, when these items get legitimate age behind them in 40 or 50 years, if, you know, hopefully this hobby's still going strong, if because of the legitimate age, the moth nips, the soiling, the wear from reenactors, how people start to get tricked into thinking these are real, even though they were produced in, 2020, you know?
Oh, that's a great point, dude. I mean, I've read reenactors online talk about how they're like, yeah, I sleep in my uniform for, a month in the winter or something like that, like just to wear it in, just to give it that real grip.
Yeah, he's going to Chili's in that bad boy, try to get the real, the real stains.
I go to Chili's. I spill the guac on my tunic just to get the authentic staining.
Salsa. They got the good salsa at Chili's. I like their salsa. Anyway,
Chili's
that's a loaded statement. Everything at Chili's is good.
That's
But
debatable.
so you might think to yourself, why are we showing you reproductions? Like, why are we talking about reproductions? We all know they exist. And the point is to draw a line between reproductions and fantasy items, because fantasy items there's no historical basis. This is like completely made up just to scam people, or I don't know. Maybe there are people that are like, man, you know what I really need is a Adolf Hitler wall clock. Like maybe that's their whole thing. For the most part, though, they're like specifically made just to separate fools from their money. And it's always some like, there's an implication to it. And so as an example of that, I'm going to show you guys some of the, I believe it was Buenos Aires a few years ago. There was a huge Nazi treasure hoard that was found.
Ooh.
And everybody was like, oh man, like this is the craziest thing. I've never seen anything like this before. And then you know what? Like a month later, they were like, actually, it's all fake.
Yeah,
and all in Argentina specifically, that's all outlawed. That is super against the law. Getting things into Argentina is not easy. You got to be real creative. So again, this is all illegal to their government.
Well, so there, it makes you wonder why somebody would assume all this risk for what we're looking at here, because everything in this picture is like the kind of, I would almost say like not Eastern European. This is more Pakistan levels of reproduction.
So is that supposed to be one of those skull measurement tools or something? Is that what that is?
That's how I interpret it.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Yeah, they were like, oh, it's Nazi calipers, as if they were like, oh, we really got to make custom calipers for this job.
I feel though that
on it.
I feel the wreath on it. Yeah, it's so that's where I was going to go. It's over the top and gaudy. A lot of this stuff, I could totally see this being in an antique store in Poland, though, or Czechoslovakia.
Oh yeah,
oh for sure.
As much
Outdoor market in Poland, dude. Yeah,
under the table, like, oh, look what I got. The amount of emails I get of spoons, from Leibstadt, Darta, and things like that. But again, what you're talking about is just, it's over embellished, and it's just, oh, look at it.
Dude, speaking of over embellished, dude, look at this thing. And they're bringing it out with gloves on. That's obviously they're handling evidence. So to them, they're like, oh, okay, it's all evidence. This is illegal. But it's funny to see so much care applied to what looks like a stamped hollow sheet metal eagle.
Yeah.
Like it's ridiculous.
Look at the feet. The talons are just laughable. Can you zoom in more? They're just so stupid looking.
He's just a little skinny guy. He skips leg day, this eagle. But yeah, this is the thing too. It's funny. This comes to light because this was international news, and this is what they showed us. And if you were a collector at the time, you saw this and you went, what the fuck is this shit?
What does her patch say? Can you zoom in on, because they don't know it's fake. They think it's what is it's probably
I can't read
It's
it.
a
Yeah, I don't
goddamn
know.
rooster. It's a rooster.
Yeah, she's got a chicken that looks like the eagle. They both skip leg day.
It's just a little ridiculous. So on top of these very clear examples of fantasy items, I do have a couple others. So this is from Hannah's Militaria. She specifically states that it's a fantasy, but again, a badge that never existed. So it, call it an art project, call it whatever you want, but it's a fantasy badge. It's not a reproduction because it's not real.
Right. Yeah. And there's tons of that stuff out there.
Second pattern Pulitzer.
This is one of the most famous fantasy badges of all time. It's in just about every collection that started in the 80s or 70s. I think every single collection has this. Pre-internet, old dudes are just like, oh yeah, look at this cool SS thing, and they just picked it up off the table because it was whatever. And yeah, man. So it even has a coffin back pin plate, which is even funnier because it's like, all right, how many tells do you need on this goddamn thing?
The M13 designation too that never existed.
Yeah, who's M13?
At least they got the Mina Era Heist Troya.
Well, M13 is is
they tried.
It's not a maker, it's a class, right? Or a metal class. Where's my book? Fuck it, I can't find it.
Well,
anyways.
no, I don't think the M13 designation ever existed.
That's what I'm saying.
It goes up to 9, I believe. I don't know off the top of my head, but I think it goes up to 9, which could be on a pin.
Well, not to distract you guys from this hot debate, but there is also this ridiculous looking Budapest shield. And I bring it up because in this case, it's a fantasy item, but it almost like they aged it just enough that you're like, man, like, you know what I mean? If you were a new collector,
yeah, you could see it being believable. And
it almost looks like maybe period thread through here. Like,
yeah, and the wool, and I mean, obviously it's cast junk and you can tell it's zinc, pot metal, but the wool is fairly old looking. So this is a fantasy item, again, that's meant to deceive and meant to get a buck out of your pocket. And yeah, historically speaking, the Battle of Budapest was just insane. But yeah, the over the top with the it's also because if this was German, I mean, there is the Lapland, right? That was, but it doesn't have a swastika. Is my point where I'm going with this. And as we know, shields typically do in Nazi Germany. So it's just it's so stupid looking.
Well, and that's a good point too for fantasy items or for reproduction items. If you see something that doesn't have a swastika where it probably should have had a swastika, then you should have the red flag go up because in your brain you're like, this just makes it easier to sell, right? Like if you're an uninformed tourist, if you're an eBay seller or whatever, like you can sell an item with no swastika, no questions asked. So of course you can throw this up there and some schmuck will buy it because they don't know, but it should be a red flag.
For sure.
And then to round us off, I just got this beautiful example that Dante dropped in the chat the other day.
Somebody offered this to him.
Dude, yeah. We've talked about the watches. Dante, how'd this whole experience go with the this fun clock here, this fantasy clock?
Oh, it's just like any other full of shit lead you get where the people are like, oh, my grandpa brought it back and he was in this, that, and the other. Look at the RZM key. That's so funny.
Dude, I can't even believe like the amount of detail that they put into being like, no, stamp the key. Stamp the key. Always the double shields too. Always the double shields.
Well,
and they look like shit.
But it's usually actually, I think on the watches, isn't a shield.
Decal. Yeah, it's like a model decal.
Well, but it's also a Totenkopf and skull or Sigrun's on the other side. Like it's two. Right. This is just double skulls, which is kind of fascinating.
Youngins wasn't an authentic clock manufacturer. Oh, there's a fucking RZM tag on the middle. You guys.
They really put some work into this one, dude.
It's gotta be real.
Ballpoint ink. Yeah. That's
gotta be real. It's good stuff, man. But
it's got a label.
Yeah,
it's got stamps.
This is a whole thing where these stories get told over and over and over again. And I don't know, the lady that was trying to sell it or the dude, I don't remember. They may have actually thought this was a real thing because
of course they did.
because Grandpa bought it in the 70s or whatever at whatever, and he told him he got it from the war, right? So these stories, this game of telephone, he got it off a dead German in the middle of the fucking Argonne Forest, like what the hell?
He was just carrying this clock around, dude. He had the mantle clock with him.
Yeah, so the stories that these people come up with are just they're just awesome. So you can't call them dumbasses. You just have to say sorry, I'm not interested. And then if you're Billy, the response is
they'll insult you.
You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, you fucking asshole. How could you tell me my shit's fake? That's Billy's luck.
Yeah.
I feel like this clock was probably just a fine normal clock. Like they just pulled they were like, fuck it, glue some shit onto it.
Yeah, well, that's where they get a lot of people, because the quality of the base item is actually usually good, right? Whether it's a cigarette case, a watch, a clock, whatever the hell it is. And then they just embellish it with some bullshit and hope that there's a sucker for it. That's all.
Yeah. And, pimping an item. They see that clock, to me, if it is real, looks like it's 1970s production. But they take a clock and add some, embellish it with, garbage. And now their $5 flea market find is now a $505 flea market find to an unsuspecting buyer. So it's just the whole greed is behind all of it.
So we want to get back to the brass tacks of this conversation. There's a difference between fantasy item and reproduction. A reproduction was made based off of an actual thing, either for a collector market or for intent to fool, whatever. But a fantasy item is complete rubbish, never existed, never will. And that's really the big difference, right?
It is. That is the point. And I didn't have a picture of it, but I thought it would be nice to include those Marine Hitler Youth badges. Never existed.
Blue ones, green.
Complete fantasy. Blue, green, purple, whatever you want, dude. Not real. Never been real. Not a thing. So our next term is not specific to this hobby. I think you can find it in other hobbies, but I'd like to hear from you guys about how you define it, right? So the next term is salty. So what does salty mean to you? Let's start with you, Dante.
Salty. So salty to me is kind of crusty, not necessarily dirty and gross, but kind of crusty. It's got a been there, done that kind of look. When I think of a salty item, I'm literally thinking of something that's been sweat stained, and the salt crystals from the sweat made it salty, looking like a crusty hat, right? It's got the salt stain. That's what I think of when I think of a salty item. So when I label something as salty, it's usually got an uncleaned look to it. It may have some dirt, some debris, some crustiness, maybe some stains. We don't know what they are, that kind of a look.
Bill, what about you? What do you think salty means? When you hear salty, do you think
you want to ask old
fishermen in Maine?
Yeah. Well, Wayne's opinion.
Sorry, William.
Okay, let's talk about this. What I dislike, everything Dante said is spot on, and that's how I would describe it too. When obviously something that went to the war or obviously didn't age well after the war would be, salty. I typically use that term describing something when it's kind of period wear and tear. I will say, however, let's expand on that. The improper use of the word minty or mint in this hobby, when something's clearly not mint, you see it all the time of like, all right, dude, that's not, so you got to be, take it with a grain of salt, if you will, when you say it's salty, you know what I mean? By the way, Dante, can we see the inside of your hat? Is it very salty? Is there a lot of crust from the sweat?
No, not in this one. This one's crispy.
Yeah. So I actually have examples. But my personal, if you go on my website, I use the term that Dante said, which is it's got that been there vibe to it. But it's like something that has holes. If it has holes in it, looks kind of shitty, I'll be like, yeah, it's salty. It was there. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm not here to pull punches, dude. You go to my website right now and you type in
here's
salty.
A piece of shit from my website.
Yeah, you'd be like, oh, damn, this thing does look salty. You'd be like, oh, all right, like, let me give you an example.
Someone's fucking been through the Morton factory with this thing.
Kinda, yeah, dude. It feels like it, right? So this was my example from my website of a salty flag. Right?
Yep.
It's got fucking holes in it. It's got stains in it. It's got fraying along the edges of it. Like it looks beat up.
Probably legitimate wind damage of the era, considering it's all the way at the far extreme end and the pole sleeve is on the left.
Yeah, it was getting smacked around.
I have no problem with it. I think hey man, I think it looks fine and it's period wear, but to me, that's salty. And I pulled some stuff from your guys' websites to see what you think salty is as well. So let's check that out. I searched up the word salty on your website, Dante, and this came up.
Yeah, it's a salty one. Yeah, because look, it's got that uncleaned, like, no one ever went around the edges with a Q-tip even to clean this thing up. It's literally pulled out of a box and put on the freaking acrylic stand for a photo and done.
You heard it here first, dude. If a Q-tip touches it, it's not salty. And then Bill, you got the salty crown in this case, because what is more salty than a sport shirt?
And there might be legitimate sweat and salt on that shirt. So like what Dante was saying, that is but that's salty, all right. So
now, has anyone ever seen a minty sports shirt? Because they always look like they have armpit stains over the whole shirt, right?
I feel like I have, but then like when you see the minty ones, you're like, did you just go buy this shit at the fucking store, dude?
Yeah,
and,
that shit
sew a
ain't
patch
real.
onto it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Real. Right.
I need to know that you were really fucking busting your ass at shot put. You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you guys a question. This is kind of gross. Did you ever smell a stain and see if it smelled like something?
No, not at all.
Why not?
Like,
Why not?
Idea.
What could go wrong? It's 80-year-old.
You smell the
stain.
stain specifically?
Does it smell like BO or ass? It never really smells like anything, is my point.
I feel like I smell an item sometimes.
If
I pick up this great coat, if I was to pick that up and smell it, I'd be like, oh yeah, smells like old.
Smelling for mustiness is not smelling a stain to see how BO it smells like.
But they never do. So my point is that BO dissipates over the time and it's gone.
Wow, you heard it here first. This is a big episode of revelations. I'm honestly like, when we came into this, we were like, let's examine some of the the language of the hobby. And I was like, sounds kind of dry. But you know what? Honestly, it's a fucking roller coaster ride of emotions, dude.
It's never
I don't know what I'm going to learn next.
This is great stuff.
All right. So our next term then, to continue things going forward, is out of the woodwork. And so out of the woodwork, man, I think, I feel like when I was growing up, my dad was big into collecting classic cars. It came from a Mopar family, you know what I'm saying? And I'm pretty sure out of the woodwork and barn find are like synonymous with other hobbies, but they also get used in Militaria. So, it's something that, let's say, my best definition of it is you're the first owner, right? It comes out of your community. It comes out of a locality, has never been on the market before. You are introducing it to the market. It is an out of the woodwork find.
Yes.
That stuff seems pretty cut and dry. So instead of analyzing what the term means, I was hoping you guys might be able to share some out of the woodwork finds that you've had.
I can't continue without saying that I fucking despise the term out of the woodwork. I just hate it. I think it's a shitty way to describe something. And I think that it's overused and people just slap it on everything to try to get more money out of something. There, I said it. Now let's continue.
So real quick, on occupation on WAF on my profile, it's Holzarbeiter, which is woodworker in German. Because that's what I kind of consider myself. That's what I do for a living. I find stuff out of the woodwork. I will say
that's fucking wild, Bill.
Yeah,
that's secret Bill. That's secret William Kramer knowledge.
You heard it here from Wayne. Another term is beating the bushes to find stuff. You know what I mean? So that's another one.
I've never heard beating the bushes.
That's not even a industry specific. You hear that shit all the time, but it's not. I don't hear it.
You got to beat the bush to get the stuff to come out and to find stuff. It's knocking on. It's cold calling. In military term, hey, what do you got?
I'm constantly just slamming on different bushes, being like, "Where's the stuff?"
All right, so let's get back to the fucking woodwork stuff. What do we have?
All right, Dante, I was going to put you on the spot and be like, hey, man, you talk the most shit about woodwork finds. And I went to bring up my browser to show the link that you sent me. And instead, I got this great message from Billy about a polo shirt that I need to buy.
You can get one at XLT, buddy. You look great.
Son of a bitch, man.
Does it have little circles, though? Does yours have little circles on it, Billy?
No, it's a different. I just went for the color. It's
okay. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate you looking out for me, dude. You're always
bring out your eyes. You look great.
Friend.
When you talk to Carmen in Oregon, maybe wear one of those.
Wow. All right. So Dante, this is a woodwork find for you. I was going to put you on the spot. You recently found this tunic.
Yeah, so if we go by the definition of a woodwork find is something that's never been in a collection before, this would fit the bill. So this came out of literally a trunk from a guy who was in the
Engineering Corps.
108th Engineers, and his son called me and said, "I got a trunk of my dad's old shit. It's been in the garage and whatever forever." I said, "Great, what's in there?" He goes, "I don't know. I'll just spread everything out over the garage floor and take a picture." I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And he sends a picture, and I see this. Clearly, it's an SS uniform, but I've never seen white cuff titles and what you call it collars before. So I'm like, "What the hell is that?" And then I do a little bit of research and find out it's a super rare SS Reserve tunic.
Let's look at the cuff title, please. The mid hip.
Yeah, go down on the
The
left.
middle.
Yep, there she is. I don't know if I have a close up of it, but that's that'll get you where you need to go. Super rare, man. You never see that shit, dude. Even just a cuff title alone, you'd probably spend 10 grand on trying to get.
And
So
you know, look
somebody
at the
just
hand
called
sewing.
you
It's crudely sewn, and that's how you found it out of the woodwork. It wasn't, you know, and
Yeah.
you know.
And not for nothing. So this thing was in a pile of sawdust from the trunk because it was this footlocker. It was falling apart. The wood was literally crumbling, and there's newspapers and different types of field commands and things like kind of crumpling and like dry rotting, and it was all just stuck into that wool tunic. And it took me about 3 lint rollers worth of lint rolling to get this thing to look the way it does now. I mean, that's the epitome of out of the woodwork. But
Dude,
you're
hot
right.
tip for you real quick. Can I interrupt you real quick?
Go ahead.
You need a clothes brush.
No, I have
No,
lint. No, lint brush all the or lint roller all the way over clothes brush.
Yeah, 100%.
A lint roller pulls at the fibers, man.
No,
It
the
removes
clothes brush
microfibers. So
pulls
the
at it.
clothes brush. No, dude, clothes brush is the
Oh,
suggested
man.
remedy, bro.
I'm about to throw this laptop across the room. You are not going to do that, Josh.
I disagree
It is a
with
lint
you,
brush.
Josh.
It is a lint brush, sir. That's what you use in the
All
hobby.
right. Well, out of the woodwork find, beautiful find, very rare and affordable, only $30,000.
No,
That's-
no.
What do you want from me? That's what one went for at auction. I just threw that price up there. People can talk to me about it all they want.
Well, when Dante first showed that in our kind of group chat, you know, beautiful reserve tunic, and I said, you know, minimum 15, and I had said the Herman Historica out of the Dulles collection had a couple. And let's talk about this real quick, and not that I want to just harp on this topic, but okay, Dante posts it on WAF, right? Rightfully so, wants the kind of notoriety behind it, but instantaneously he gets lowball offers in PM. And this used to happen to me all the time, and it used to drive me nuts, especially when the members who would message me have no forum posts. They've existed since 1999, and they only use the forum to just leech off of it and get good stuff for their own collections. And it happens all the time. I will say, back in the day when I was really like learning the ropes of being a dealer and finding stuff out, you know, after I was beating the bushes, you would find out how good something really was by the amount of PMs of like, hey, is that for sale? Is that for sale?
100%.
And that's why, you know, it happened to you, even though people know you're an established dealer and obviously you have connections to find the appropriate values. They're like, hey, would you take $600 for that black SS Algemina uniform? And it's like, no, I won't. I mean, I have a general idea of what I have here. So, you know, you did post it on WAF, and it was just kind of sickening to hear of like, man, they're still doing it over there, you know?
Yeah, it's a regular thing though. I've learned to kind of brush it off. You get the lowball offers, and that's fine. That just shows me that there is interest. And then, but it's funny to see the offers start to creep up, you know, because it's like, oh, how about 6,000? How about 7,000? How about 8,000? It's like it slowly starts to get to like half of what it's worth. And you're just like, hey, thanks, but no thanks. And I try to be very polite about it, because it's easy for something like that to go off the rails, and for someone to get like have something nasty to say about me because I call them a piece of shit in a PM. You know what I mean?
And I think you price it completely appropriately because, hey, find another one. And the one at auction, that was the only one really in existence that actually was for sale to establish a base price for it. And yours is legitimately untouched, direct from the family. The provenance is impeccable, and you can't beat it, man. It was nothing that was put together yesterday. And as you said, the insignia is next level rare. You know, like I said, I was thankful to see it did not have badge loops on it, so I didn't have to murder you to have it for myself.
No badge.
I'm really a big fan of the logic of go find another one. I'm just going to say that. That's my absolute favorite response when someone's like, it's too much money. You're like, all right, go find another one.
Yeah, it's not a bad answer to half of these people that are trying to mess with you. So I don't know.
All right, so Bill, we heard from Dante. We saw a woodwork find from him. Something real affordable, some low class garbage. You know what I'm saying? Nothing real nice. I'm hoping you got something cool to show us here. You sent me some pictures. I'm gonna let him play and let you tell me the story. Okay?
Yeah, go ahead, buddy. This is from the Standarte of Regiment, General Goering. This is Second Jaeger Battalion. The that would be on the Standarte when they took the oath to the regiment. This, and obviously it's 800 silver. The translation is victory or defeat is in God's hands. We ourselves are Lord and King of our honor. And you can see it there if you zoom in. Yeah, you can see it there.
Wow.
You can see the fancy edge on it. And there's numerous of these Standarte. And in this, the Landespolizei helmet is there in that previous photo. However, this helmet is with the early snake leg decal. And it's the regiment that there's several of these, but they're all in the same period photo. And I actually have a Landespolizei helmet. This slideshow is going real quick. So this is in my personal collection. So it's just interesting to see that obviously the first Goering thing was the Landespolizei regiment, which later went to General Goering. And that is the pole ring from the Standarte. And that was something that I found that no one else knew what it was. And this is another thing. We should pause real quick if we can do that.
Let's pause it.
Okay, so this is a completely different find. This came out of Idaho recently. And this is the Schloss Kleisheim hoard of silverware, which is the castle, the palace that the 3rd Infantry Division took over at the end of the war in Salzburg, Austria. This is an entire set of silverware. It's amazing that these GIs got into these places in Germany, and not only just the castle, obviously, but also private homes, and just robbed these people blind, if anything, and just sent it home to the United States. And they were allowed to do that. But this is for an officer. He retired as a colonel, and he was a communication or transportation guy. That's the actual wartime photo of Schloss Kleisheim. And obviously from the front balcony, if you go to the next image, you'll see the Führerstandarte flying off the front, looking out on the promenade. But this is a huge look at the Alps. I mean, this is just amazing stuff. There's some more silverware. I actually have a flower. If you can pause real quick, see how the flowers were being held. I have candlestick holders and the flower, the holder and root that the guy just kind of forgot to. He's like, "Oh, I forgot about these," and it's like, "Yeah, those are in the original pictures you showed me. Send those." So those are en route coming to me. But if you go forward, you can see there is actually a teapot. It's very hard to see because it's grainy. And the woman in the photo is actually Knight's Cross, the Warmare Cross, Ritterkreuz, is around
that's
her
very
neck.
cool.
And they found numerous unboxed mint awards in this hoard. They were being stored at this castle. This is all documented. Those are actually Goering's fat ass fucking trousers being shown off by the 3rd Infantry there.
Dude.
But again,
Oh
you can see some of this silver here in this photograph, and it's just cool to see the stuff I have in front of me. It's actually sitting to my left. In period photographs. So again, this is just legendary stuff. And again, right out of the woodwork, straight from the family. And it's crazy that, you think about this was 80 years ago and this stuff just sat around the house and these people had no clue what it was or the value behind it.
You're lucky it didn't end up in a fucking Goodwill, dude.
Or cashforgold.com or some shit like that for its sterling, because it's 950 sterling. So, and a lot of this stuff did. I mean, in fact, I've bought Wellner Hitler trays from silversmiths who bought it for their silver content, knew it was worth, obviously, its melted price. So again, this is woodwork find. This happened to me last week. It came with Box Knight's crosses. It came with Grand Crosses of the German Eagle Order. There were 2 of those. Numerous 5th classes, the breast badge, life-saving Otto Gar produced medals. It was an entire hoard that was a grand slam in my career, and this is something exponentially rare that was a woodwork find recently. Just like Dante's black Alchemine uniform. It's just the stuff that's still out there is incredible.
That's outstanding, man. And this also brings up just hearing that all these mint unissued awards were stored, with a bunch of Goering's personal belongings and stuff there. Reminds me of that time. Do you guys know the story of when Hitler pranked Goering?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
What? Where's this?
There's this like, you could look it up. Like, don't quote me 100%. Like, if you're writing a research paper, then this is probably not the place to be like, I heard Josh Doda say this. But the story, as I know it, is that one day, like, Goering was out, and Hitler ordered all of his pajamas to be adorned with fake medals and shit. And then when Goring like came home, he put his pajamas on and was like, "What is the meaning of this?" And Hitler was like, "Haha, got you, bitch." Like it was basically like, you know how you're a fucking award collector? Now you can be well decorated while you sleep.
He was super gaudy. Is that a true story? Because I've never heard that before in my life.
Dude, I swear to God, I've heard, I mean, hey, it might be apocryphal, but like I have heard that story a few times and I choose to believe it because it just sounds it sounds fitting for the big man.
If
Sounds like
anyone
something
has
that
any
would
information on
happen.
this, please comment and let us
Yeah,
know.
put it in the comments. I'd
I
love
want
to
to
know
see
more
it.
about
I want to
this
see no
as
more
well.
about that.
I can't believe you guys don't believe me that Goring had fake medals sewn onto his fucking pajamas.
By the order of the Fuhrer?
All right, Josh, moving along. What else do we have to talk about here for the glossary industry terms?
I was looking at your website about this, and you mentioned everything at one point was a bringback, which I thought was a very like profound thing to think about because it's true. But
The first generation of collector, too. Think about it that way.
right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, if it's here, it was brought back by somebody. So anything that was sold in the U.S. is a bringback at some point. You could argue that something in Germany is not a bringback, and you're buying it from there or France or whatever. But
That's more of a woodwork find.
yeah, right.
Right, just to circle back. But I think that like at this point in time, a bringback is only considered a bringback if it has some sort of provenance that goes with it to tie it to being brought back. Would you guys agree?
I think
Sourced
you can,
from the Allies.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can use the term bringback in the sales description if you have some provenance that ties it, right? Like a letter or bring back papers or something else, right?
Right, exactly. So that's kind of what I'm getting at here. You have to have some documentation or like a photograph or something that will tie it all together, and you can be like, all right, this was very clearly brought back or mailed back by a soldier during World War II or after World War II, you know, what have you. It's a bring back from the conflict. And so I've actually pulled a couple images from both of from Dante, it's from your website. Billy, it's from your own collection. And I think it illustrates the point pretty well. So Dante, I'm going to start with you. We have this Mein Kampf here, and you still have the original box that it was sent back in?
Yeah, I mean, what's better than that? You get I'm assuming it's the box that it was sold originally from the bookstore or the seller, right, in Germany. And then rather than go through all kinds of extra steps, the GI that took it and wanted to send it home, just like, well, fuck it, I'm just going to slap the label right on there and send the whole thing. This is a good enough box. And then we have this great example still to this day that's that you can have in a collection. It's fantastic.
And you look at the damage to some packages that the Postal Service, does nowadays, and look at that one survived coming across the Atlantic Ocean during a war. During a war, and it's fine. It looks perfect. Yeah,
right.
They just
shout out to the USPS. Great job, guys.
Yeah, dude, USPS, friend of the show. You don't know it, but man, you're always sending Nazi stuff in the mail. But yeah, no, it's very cool. It's cool to see the label. It's cool. Have you done any research on this? Is that something that you've ever like thought about doing? Or I mean, obviously when you get the box with it, you have more of a name, you have more of a place to jump off when it comes to research.
No, I haven't. I like to, a lot of times it's a, excuse me, it's a cost time benefit for me. So I like to put an astronomically high price on it and let somebody else research it. Basically, it's because it's great. There's a lot of potential in there, and let somebody else do it. Have fun.
I love that term, dude. It's got research potential. No, I completely understand. That's really cool, though, and it is cool. You're right. That's probably the original box that came in from the bookseller in Germany, and the dude was like, "Done. We're sending it home."
I think the red one is the abbreviated, it's the soldier's version. It's the
pocket version.
Yeah, because it's not. I don't remember what
right. What did I put in the description of that? Is that still for sale? Thinner? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Hey, commenters, I don't remember, and I didn't put it in the episode. So hey, you go find the information. Is it still for sale? I have no idea.
Go check out my website. Is it still for sale? I have so much shit. I don't even know. I don't even know. I know I have like a bunch of them, and I don't know if that one's still for sale or not. I'm sorry. Is that bad?
Well, it's a good example, regardless, right? I mean, it's very clearly got provenance to it. You have the box. You have the name. It shows exactly what you want to see. Bill, I have some stuff from you here that I think falls right into this bring back category, and I'm hoping you can tell me the story about this as well.
So yeah, these are items in my personal collection, and this little girl, he got the bus out of Aachen, and the bus came to me broken, and it's broken in the period photo. So obviously, the story was he beat the bust off with his rifle butt. I would love to find it. This is a real thing. If someone has any prominent uh, buildings or anything in Aachen that would have something like this in a period photo with that bust, I would kill to see that, know where that came out of. I don't know if it's the mayor's house or a public building or what, but and again, the little girl is wearing, obviously this was shipped back to the United States, and this is his daughter. I did not get the M42, unfortunately. There's a couple pieces I did not get, but I did get the helmet. And if you move forward, you can actually see it's the same helmet and there's a little backstory to it, but it's got the same markings with the same little white dots and the same imperfections. So it is 100%. Everyone's saying that, oh, the helmet looks unissued, but it is lightly worn in the leather. But, again, when it comes to 44 and 45, those guys were putting their hands up pretty quick at the end of the day. So it wasn't worn for a ton of time. But again, something super cool, the Bringback and the provenance, like you were talking about. This was shipped to his little girl, and there's the story behind it, and of her showing off her dad's war trophies. And again, people complain about the Nazi stuff, but these guys sent this stuff home. It wasn't offensive in 1945. I get what the Nazis did and how it looked, but these were not, things of atrocities. These were war trophies. And that's how they were viewed. And Grandpa kept it for 80 years in his closet, but now it's taboo to collect it. I think it's so silly. But my point is I have both these items in my collection, and that cute little girl is wearing that helmet in a period photo. And this was actually put in the newspaper of the town. So it's very cool.
You know what's very interesting about this? Just reading the newspaper clipping is that it says that the German Purple Heart, so I assume a wound badge, and the combat infantryman badge, both made of thin plastic. So were these not awards, you think? But did he nick like adornments?
No, they were metal. I remember seeing them. It's just an author going probably off a black and white photo, because he probably took the photo, developed it, and looked at it and was just like, oh, that looks plastic. Or, because the enamel paint on some of those black wound badges almost looks like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, if the awards were mint, he probably didn't realize it was actually a base metal that was a very high quality and an excellent finish on it. So I'm sure he's talking about the wound badge that you see to the right of the neck of the Hitler bust there.
It's also very cool just to think about, like, even something like this, right? This gets entered into public record. This becomes something that probably gets scanned by some Google intern at some point when they're going through the records of a newspaper. And then there's information online where people can say, well, I heard they were made out of plastic. You know what I mean? And you could sit there and be like, well, I handled them. I know that they are not made out of plastic, but because some guy misinterpreted the information back in the day, now there's misinformation that can cycle forever.
Yep. That's a problem that we have with reference material to this day. There's something in there that's wrong. And it's like, well, in this page in such and such's book, it says it's real. And you're like, fuck. It's not real, buddy.
We got two more topics to talk about today, and that is two different tests that we hear a lot about in the hobby. The first test is the burn test. So the burn test, as far as I can remember, and you guys can back me up or tell me I'm an idiot if I'm completely wrong, it basically states that natural thread will flash when it burns and artificial thread will ball up and melt. That's the gist of it. But have you guys ever done the burn test? Are you guys burn testers in your everyday life, or do you look for other signs of originality?
Oh, yeah. No, I've done the burn test several times. When there's a lot of times you do it on, sometimes you find an eagle, maybe like a rayon looking eagle that looks a little funny. And you might be like, let me just light this on fire real quick.
Dude, that's the scariest thing in the world, right? Like, I remember seeing a video back in the Facebook days, like when Facebook was a little more popping off in the military community, where somebody was like doing the burn test, and they literally laid like one of the Polizei eagles like down in a fucking on a skillet.
Oh,
and I was like, no, this is not right. This is not what we were thinking of. So how does it go? Do you feel like it helps you achieve?
Yeah, you're supposed to take a small thread that's inconsequential to the condition of the item, and you just burn that, right? So, and yeah, it's just like, if it's plastic, it's no good. So if it's plastic, it kind of shrivels up into like a little ball of plastic, and it might melt and fall on your freaking leg and burn you. That's no good. Or a little hard ball of plastic at the end. it's no good. But if it just kind of lights on fire, much like a piece of paper would, right? It just kind of, and it's gone, and it's just a little bit of powdery residue, then usually that's a good indication of originality. That's the burn test, in conjunction with other things, but that's it.
Bill, are you a notorious burn tester in your everyday life, or do you feel like you look to other signs?
Yeah, I haven't done the burn test in years with a lot of things. Dante mentioned Bevo eagles and things like that look a little off. There's the double saw blade. That's a textbook flaw in the new reproductions. So like when you notice that and you look at the weave and how it's made, you don't necessarily need to burn it to figure out it's fake. Additionally, the way it feels in your fingers compared to an original is just a little waxier. It's just different. I can't really explain.
It's like crinklier, the fake ones, right?
Yeah, so again, you don't necessarily need to use burn test. It's something that has been around. Let's talk about, we're going to probably talk about black lights too, but like obviously these fakers have known about these techniques to identify fakes for a long fucking time. Okay, they're smarter than that now. Okay, so they're not using so much synthetic shit. I'm not going to say the guys in India or Pakistan are not. They're they're making really bad shit. So anyway, where I'm going, they don't even say.
Whoa, dude! I've seen the Pakistan items. They look great.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Well, we can edit that out if it's too hot for television. But my point is the fakers have known about these techniques and what not to do for a very long time now. I remember there was this guy on the forums like, oh, have you ever seen me at the show walking around with a trash bag over my head? I'm looking at a black light under my. And it's like that's not what makes it real or fake anymore, dude. I mean, I get if you were doing that in 1990, that probably helped a ton because there wasn't as much fake stuff. Go ahead, Josh. Sorry, buddy.
All right, so that actually brings us right into the very final term of today, which is the blacklight test. Because I've heard the blacklight test for years. I'm sure everybody else has heard it. It's still the go-to, like, knee-jerk response of a lot of people on forums if they're like, hey, do you guys think this ribbon looks fake or whatever? And obviously there are other ways to determine that. Like you've looked at ribbons on the show before and been like, the weave is not correct. Like I get it, wefts, etc. But the blacklight test, let's talk about it for a second. Dante, are you a blacklight tester, or once again, have you found a better way to do it? And also lend a little bit of like, what is the blacklight test?
All right. Well, where do I start here? So the blacklight test, you need a blacklight. You put the questionable item under the blacklight in the dark, and you see if it glows. A good way to do this is to do it with something is modern in your other hand, right? So you can bounce back and forth and be like, well, look at the way this freaking Hanes t-shirt glows. Boom. And does this armband glow like that? Or does it glow just like a little bit? It's like not really, it's not really the same. So you kind of bounce back and forth, and you can use that as an indicator of originality. My big beef with blacklights is that not everything that glows is bad. And that's the problem, because the technology, the detergents and whatever chemicals they used to make things uber white back then, that technology that glows under blacklight existed before the Third Reich, right? It was, I think someone came out with an article that said it was like 1918 or something, the technology came out. And then, so the question is like, well, when did it become mass produced or used in mass in textile mills and then pumped out? We know in general, if something is blacklighting, glowing, it's probably made after 1945. However, I think there is a significant amount of things that blacklight bad that are actually okay. That's my personal opinion.
I'm pretty sure you actually gave an example of this on your website, on your glossary page, which you brought up. What was it? Feuerschutz like the fire police guys.
Yeah, in terms of like non-white colors. So like
there are pinks. The pans are pink.
Yeah,
glows.
when we're talking about blacklight testing, we're really specifically talking about white, because a lot of these other neon type colors and dyes will glow, and they're good. They're right as rain, and they glow like hell. But we got to focus in. It's just really supposed to be used on white items. So
stitching. stitching and
Stitching,
white
yeah.
material. Yeah,
Yeah, if
backing.
you see white stitching on an armband, man, it's bad. But there's other things that you might have, and it's like, well, it kind of glows. It looks kind of, maybe it glows. Like everything else looks right. So you have to use it as another tool in your toolbox. It's not always a slam shut case of it's bad, it glows. So you have to just be careful with that. And I think that's kind of what Billy was saying, especially with today's junk that's out there. Because if it doesn't glow, does that mean it's automatically good? No, right?
Right.
So,
yeah. All right. Yeah, fair enough. Bill, what's your blacklight test story, dude? What's your saga?
I feel very very one way about this. You can tell if something's been laundered, right? So I actually had a pennant. A guy asked me like, "Hey, is this real?" And it was an HJ diamond or something like that. But the back of the diamond, yeah, the diamond did not glow, but the swastika sewn on separately to the diamond did. I said, "There's no way that swastika is original. Like the flag, the base material of the flag, and the diamond may be real, but the swastika, which is separate, glows like a light bulb. If it were laundered, it would be uniform, where the diamond and the swastika would both glow, if that makes sense." And I can try to find a picture and maybe hold it up over here, and you'll see what I'm talking about. If I have the email still, I don't know.
but what Billy is talking about is supposedly things that are laundered. The detergents in the laundry detergent will cause things to glow as well. My personal experience with that is when you see that detergent glow, if we'll call it that, it's not as bright and it's often spotty, if that makes any sense. So if I see like spotty, it's like kind of a spotty glow, like it's a little brighter here and a little brighter, less bright there. Then I'm like, well, that's from a detergent. And then I'm like, okay, so forget the black light test on this. Let's look at the other things.
So I would, expanding on that, you can tell. I blacklight things. I do. Even to this day, I blacklight everything that's
you kind of like start there. You're like, well, does it glow? And then you know,
uniforms, you want to know if a collar tab was resewn onto it, and sometimes that will, you know, fluoresce and you'll see it. But I will say, in my opinion, my professional opinion, with utmost certainty, there's nothing original that fucking glows. And people are like, oh no, this is real and it does glow. And no, it doesn't. They did not use, in my opinion, materials that glow and fluoresce under a black light prior to 1945. They didn't. I've never seen one argument where this was real and it glows, and it's like, oh, so they did use that. And everyone on the internet's always said this, and oh, you're wrong, and I don't care. If it glows and I don't think it's detergent, I don't sell it.
Well, I mean, and we can agree to disagree with that, but I think the problem is that we know for a fact that the technology existed before 1945, well before 1945, just after, I think, World War I. So we know the technology existed. So it is plausible, if not reasonable, to assume that somebody was using it. Maybe it was just U.S. manufacturers, because maybe I think that's where the technology was patented, or maybe it was in Europe somewhere. I don't know, but I'm just throwing that out there. I'm sure people will use that to defend shitty items, but you know.
Yeah. So in headgear, visors specifically, if you see pinking shears, you know, the kind of zigzag scissors. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
On the interior lining, that's usually a red flag. However, in theory, what you're talking about, the patent for pinking shears did come out prior to World War II. So it could have, you know,
but we know that the Germans didn't use it, right?
That's kind of where I'm going with. I agree with you that the technology was there, and I understand that. I just have yet to find anything that is production, you know, like RZM. There's 100,000 of these items. There's not production items that glow that are original, in my opinion. I guess could there be a one-off? Yes. If I found one, would I sell it? No. That's just me. But I like to play better safe than sorry.
And I think that's the whole point, is that because of the black light test, it kind of just, anything that glows is bad at this point, because you
better safe than sorry.
Yeah, you're better safe than sorry. And like if I get something in that glows, and honestly, I don't know if I've ever had to do this, but if I got something in that was like, it meets all the criteria of a good item, like everything is perfect on it, but it glows, I would say, listen, this item's normally worth $200. It glows, and I don't know why it glows. You can have it for $20. Like, that's kind of what I'll do with that. It must be fake. I don't know. Here it is. Like,
it might not even be fake.
Well, that's the thing.
Be covered in...
That's disgusting. Is this gonna make the cut? Is this gonna make the cut?
It might just be covered in
That's the episode,
Is this
honestly.
gonna make the edit?
And with that being
Well,
said,
boys,
this was the
hey,
military
you know,
podcast.
You can tell when
you
Josh
know-
is ready to go. He's ready to move on because he's throwing something ridiculous out.
Hey man, have you ever watched the MTV show Room Raiders back in the early 2000s? It was like a
No.
dating show, and they'd always be like, now it's time to go in your bedroom and do the black light test. And I'm gonna tell you right now, they were not being like, this was actually pre-1945 manufacture.
I would be willing to bet that too, Josh. Thanks for the information, though.
I'm just happy to be here and to contribute. Guys, I think that we shed some light on a few terms in the hobby today. And if you guys as listeners enjoyed learning a little bit about the minutia of the hobby, or maybe you just like listen to us yap about it, then let us know. We can come back. We can do this sort of episode again. Like I said, there's plenty of specific language. And also, before the episode's out, I just want to close us out with a little quick thing here. Big shout out to Vintage Sale Stuff on eBay, who just sold me this North Korean Order of Military Merit Type 2 medal for $20, free shipping. 1995, actually. 1995, screaming deal. So I don't know the guy. He might be a fucking neo-Nazi. I have no clue. But here's the thing. Cheap eBay deal right there. Vintage Sale Stuff. So thank you very much to him. And thank you very much to you guys for coming and hanging out tonight and sharing a little bit of your wisdom and some cool pictures of the stuff from your collection. As always, my name is Joshua Doda. I run Queen City Militaria, and I have been joined by my two buds, my two best pals, Dante Gambino of SMG War Relics.
Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. Always a pleasure.
And William Kramer of WehrmachtMilitaria.com.
Good night, everybody. I just want to thank Dante real quick because Dante is the only uniform guy who's got the hat and the polo the correct color. I don't have a hat. Josh doesn't have the polo, but Dante's got both. So good job there, buddy. Hopefully we can
Next
skip this
episode,
little bit. Yeah.
I will have the polo.
Well, no, I don't want to wear
promise
this
you that.
again. We'll just try to match a little better.
Yeah, we just gotta figure out what you're gonna wear, Josh.
Because it's
Oh,
important for
man.
the listener and the viewer to have matching guests.
Question
Or-
for the listener and the viewer. If you stuck around this far into the show, would you want t-shirts? Would you want us to do some fun little t-shirts? We could send you one for free. Maybe you just pay shipping and handling. Maybe it's like $5. Who gives a shit, right? Do you want a shirt from the show? Let me know.
It could just say maybe it's covered on the front
Ew,
of it. and then
that's
mail it right up.
disgusting.
I'm beeping out every time that we've said the word. Yeah. Is another one that we're gonna have to beep out. We don't say number
say the
one
R
thing we
word.
don't say is number two thing we don't say is. And on that note, I'll see you guys later. We'll catch up with you next month for some more fun Militaria chats.